Good afternoon, everyone. Folks sitting on the back, feel free to join to the front. Don't be shy, so you guys can have plenty of questions for our speakers. And our fireside chat about decentralized machine learning for scientific discovery is about to start. So everyone, please welcome our speaker, Sean from SaharaAI, and Himanshu from Sentient, and then Jialin from Hetu protocol. Our moderator today is Leon from Hetu DAO.
Okay, thank you guys. It's my privilege to be here to moderate this panel. And we have our distinguished panelists here. And so today the topic is decentralized machine learning for scientific discovery. Yeah, it's kind of an exciting topic, machine learning, for scientific discovery has been hot recently. Since machine learning has played a significant role in scientific discovery today. Like AlphaFold has been spent like over hundreds of millions of dollars in protein structure prediction, right? And something else. So the question is, for decentralized machine learning for scientific discovery, what is the core value of this? What we can bring, beyond, centralized machine learning for scientific discovery? Yeah, please. Sure. You want to go first?
I mean, this is really outside of my area, so I don't want to be the first one. But I can talk about, not directly answer the question, but I just give a little bit of my take about AI for scientific discovery. I think in the past, people building AI in the way they're trying to mimic human. Is sort of like building this kind of alignment between AI and human in order to make AI become sort of like a collaborator, teammate, and sort of partners or co-pilot for human in terms of increasing productivity, right? And that has been like monetized pretty well in the past decades and has still been a major sort of business model for AI. But I think things change for AI for science, because I think one big lesson people learn regarding this path is like you have to really like remove the human constraints when you're building AI for science, because that really like bottleneck a lot of like performance and potentials for AI, helping with say protein structure predictions, chemical compound formation, all this problem. And I think the biggest learning there is like making AI a very different thinking machine than human in terms of addressing scientific problems is actually have a lot of potential actually. So for example, do we have to enforce the physical laws into these like AI models as the constraints when they are making predictions? Yeah, if you're creating autonomous driving systems, this has to be the case. But then maybe not necessarily the case if you're creating this AI agent for science, right? So I think that's just like my little bit kind of a learning when I talk to these like AI for science researchers in the past couple of years.
Okay, thank you. Himanshu, you want to go first?
Can I go last?
Yeah.
It's a surprisingly technical topic.
We got airdrop to here.
Yeah. But would you like to start? If you
okay,
have...
okay, sure. I mean, I can give my 2 cents. Yeah, I think that's a great discussion about the power of AI for science. And I can add on about when decentralization comes into the picture, how does that make it even better? I think when there's decentralization, or decentralized AI or decentralized machine learning, I think one benefit will be leveling the playground for everybody to. Maybe not everybody, but for broader set of participants in this AI for science process. I think so far, scientific discoveries has been very excluded to the small set of people privileged enough in this prestigious institutions. Right. And I think the emergence of AI makes it a little bit better or a little bit more fair, right? So more people now have access to tools that they can help with scientific discoveries. But I think decentralization will even further, expand the circle of science to even more people, less privileged people who can contribute to these discoveries. So I think, now with all this openness of all these tools, all these AI tools, and also maybe in the future, right? So with like infrastructure support, that for example you can provide compute infrastructure on using blockchains to these maybe people with less resources, right? So they can also take part in these scientific discoveries. So I think that's where decentralized machine learning will shine to help science.
Yeah, please.
Right. So I'm supposed to be a scientist, but I know nothing about this question. But let me start by that also gives me freedom to say anything. So let me start by saying what is scientific discovery? Let's give it a meaning, right?
Yeah, sure.
So what was before AI for scientific discovery was statistics for scientific discovery. That's what stats were actually invented for. So science is nothing but making hypotheses in this context, A versus B, and then using data to validate if you favor A over B, and then throw away the previous hypothesis, make the next hypothesis, C versus D, blah blah blah, and in doing those hypotheses, you have to know all that existed previously, all the relevant literature, and that's where not only the resources but the access to the past is also gated, as what you're complaining about, by these networks of knowledge networks, universities. We broke the knowledge network with the internet, and now maybe there are some resource constraints which we want to break. I would say compute is a significant resource constraint. That's true. Compute is a significant resource constraint to break. So that there may be a decentralization role. But even before we go to decentralization, let's see what a framework like Google Co-Scientist, which I read recently, and I was surprised by the shallowness of the paper, was trying to do. It's a very simple thing that they did, and they put it out, and that shows you how much you have to beat the drum in AI, that Google puts out something like that, because they actually got Nobel Prize from stuff like that. So what that paper does is it talks about how now these hypotheses can be formed by an agent by looking at the relevant literature from, let's say, archive or whatever the relevant open source literature is or closed source literature is, which you can throw as RAG. And it can do that, and it can look at data and then make those decisions and continue. So that is what scientific discovery through AI needs to be. So the stats that we were doing on whatever, still on programs, is still on programs, but the hypothesis formulation, which was completely subjective, which is this scientific expertise is nothing but the ability to navigate in huge knowledge space and get to the edge of it and make a dent there, right? That navigation is now done by AI. That's AI for scientific discovery. That itself is exciting. So even if we had machine learning for scientific discovery, that would have been a great topic. But now we have decentralized in front of it, which is now we are saying that if this is the future, then does Google Gemini with its huge data center and with its 2 million token context which they are looking for, where they can throw all the background knowledge in a single query, will that dominate the whole world? Or they will start doing, Google already has a Nobel Prize. They will start getting all the Nobel Prizes, or there's a chance for not you and me, I would say, maybe let's say even universities, because there's a crisis in universities, to even compete with the likes of Google with their compute. And with, let's say they don't have 100K GPUs or 100K TPUs, but they may have, let's say 64 GPUs, H100s. Can they do something with that and compete with the likes of Google? That's this question. At least a question I understand now.
Yeah, actually, I'm quite excited that you guys are getting, done about this question, so we don't have to stick to the playbook. I actually got some wild question, like, for currently for the big AI companies, they spend tons of money, training the model, building the everything we have today. And now we have DeepSeek. Everybody's getting reevaluate the value of the big AI company, and so we can see that all the big AI companies talking about AI for science, for scientific research, because they know that for the ordinary users, for the end users, if they want to just ask the users pay for subscribe, it really doesn't support the model, the revenue model, but in terms of scientific research, suppose like you can just use the AI power to just discover a medicine which can cure cancer. It's kind of a tens of billions of dollar market share, right? So it's easy that if you can just put like $100 million on the AI computer resource, right? So that's kind of the narrative of the current big AI companies. So my question goes like, what is the scenario? What is the use case for decentralized machine learning? In terms of the maybe scientific research, maybe not, but we have to find a big enough market to support that the cost of the what we spend on training the model or whatever the platform we build. Yeah. So
I can go first this time. So maybe I'll give an example. So I'm just thinking, and I realize that actually I've done something in this. So before I switched to Gen AI, there's this company called Fitbit, which was bought by Google, and Fitbit looks at all the fitness data. So I worked on a project for Google for Fitbit, where the goal was to understand some kind of diabetes symptoms, pre-diabetes symptoms, where your sugar goes up only your fasting sugar goes up. Okay, it reaches 100, 105. And rest of the control is fine. When you eat food and it comes back and the control comes down, that part is fine. But just when you wake up, it's high. And the leading thesis on that is it's because of stress and cortisol. Your sleep is not good, so cortisol remains high, and cortisol introduces some kind of insulin resistance. Okay, all founders know this. So, so that was the leading thesis. Now, what they wanted to check was that if by running or cardio activity, this can be controlled. Now, this is a hypothesis which our team made up. Okay, the team had some doctor and all that, and there are other teams who were making up different hypotheses. And all this excitement was coming because you were getting Fitbit data about cardio from the users, a huge, maybe it was a 100K people study, which is so hard to coordinate in the centralized manner. It's just because of decentralized, I'll call this decentralized, the data that comes from variables, which is huge pool. They were doing that, and they were incentivized to report their fasting sugar levels every morning. Okay, and that was the data corpus that we had from which we were doing this study. And it was pre-Gen AI breakthroughs of this kind. So it was not given to Gen AI for formulating thesis. The theses were formed by us, as in not me, but the medical team. And the stats was done by a team like me, and which was already machine learning driven. You get this time series data and decide what happens there and all that. So all this thing can be now more closed loop. And maybe with crypto, even the incentive gets closed loop into this. Those incentives were some I think food, some kind of coupons we were giving them away. And this was an interesting study. Some results came out. But I'll tell you the challenge in this is that the scientific experiments are have to be very carefully designed. The hardest part in decentralized data collection and doing scientific study is doing any kind of control study. People are running wherever they are, and there are a lot of confounding factors. Yeah. So the challenge we faced was actually having any kind of control study, so that you have a proper control group. And the advantage we had was that the amount of data in the study pool was huge, unheard of, and just coming for free, like free as in just coming easily. We didn't have to put them anywhere, or they were just in their home through their variables recording data. So that's the, I think that's the promise and the challenges that we saw in that kind of study.
I think, yeah, just going back to the question, right? Like, I don't think we need decentralizations for machine learning right now for scientific discovery, because we even haven't figured out like machine learning for science yet. There's, I guess like the way I see this is like the science results should be open source, right? Like if you're a company, let's say Google, that really figure out a great sort of a protein structure prediction method with all of your infra, and then you just like take advantage of those results, like protect it with some, I don't know, like copyrights, and then you just like monetize it, use yourself. I think that's like slowing down the entire science community by maybe, I don't know, years. And we've seen this happens many times in the past by different pharmaceutical firms and so on, and they make huge ton of money out of that. I wouldn't call it like a bad thing, but I mean, just like I would love the results of the scientific discovery be open source. But then the way that we approach these like new scientific discovery methods, I think they could entirely be centralized, because I think the biggest problem here is like pooling talents and pooling computational resources today is still most effective through like centralized methods, right? Like build a data center, you get the compute, and then just use your revenue, recruit the talents in a company so that they can become a sort of a really strong R&D team and to look into a problem for years. If you look at the DeepMind model, it happens, but the problem is they don't. DeepMind is a cost center; it doesn't have a business model, so it has to be all of the revenue and support, basically research funding, come from their model company, Alphabet, right? Basically come from the ads, the Google search ranking results, all these things. You can think this is like contributing back what they earn from the taxpayers back to the society by helping with the scientific discovery. And in the bad economics situation, like in the past few years, this doesn't work anymore. So DeepMind basically got disrupted by their board goals. They switched to really use the talents into these more like practical AI applications, like the language models, Gen AI and stuff like that. But things become a cycle. Every few years, you see when the economics resumes, there's more free money to bank great PhD and strong researchers. Then they will start looking into more like Eiffel Tower type of problems, like fairness, ethical concern of the models, things like that, AI for science, stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, Jialin, please.
Oh, all right. So I think the original question is about market, right? So where we can where there is a big market for decentralized AI, decentralized machine learning. Yeah, I think that's a question that well, many people are still like struggling with, even with like centralized AI, right? So they haven't really fully solved the problem, right? So where is the market? And so one possible direction, I think, especially for decentralized AI, is personally, I think if you have more personalized AI solutions, I think that would be something that would be attractive, right? So I want to have AI solutions that's mostly tailored to me, right? So of course, these current AI technologies are already great enough, right? But I want something to really understand me, and then that can help me make my daily decisions, and my personal assistant, so on and so forth, right? So that's a huge opportunity, but also there's a huge market for this, right? So I'm talking to researchers, AI researchers at Meta, and they also be thinking about how do we monetize their AI models, right? So I think their thinking is, I mean, the best way you make money is through advertisement, right? So that's still how these, at least current Web2 companies are making most of the money from through advertisement, right? Once you have more personalized AI solutions, right? So that will also be a great opportunity to have more tailored product advertisement to individual users, right? Maybe that's an evil thing, but I think at least that's where there's a lot of money in there. So that's a potential avenue.
Yeah. Okay. So. Suppose I got some thinking, like suppose for traditionally for the researchers, scientists, normally they just work on a big platform, a big lab, so they got the money, the resources necessary for to support their research, right? And still, we have a lot of scientists research. They don't have such kind of resources. So think about this: what if we can just use the power of AI and to just empower the individual, researchers, scientists, and normally this gonna not happen in Web 2 ways, like big platforms, big labs. They're gonna train their model, but they don't want open source it, right? They spend money on it. So what do you guys think about this? Do you think it work or no?
I think it's not gonna easily work. I mean, not to mention scientific discovery, just even building like foundational model. It's not even like a science, it's an engineering problem, right? We don't see huge success from decentralized kind of a community. I mean, 5 years ago, there's this like a pure Web 2 initiative called Bloom, which I think they put together like 100-ish like researchers over different countries over the globe, and then to build this like 500 million parameters kind of a language model called Bloom. And then it took them, they have a Twitter account every day. You see the progress bar like going like 1% more, and took them like I think 2-3 months to finish. And then it was like really like pretty mediocre model that wasn't being used too much down the road. But that was like one of the major decentralized engineering efforts I remember for this like foundational model. The reason it doesn't work well is like if everyone contributes some idea, then there's no prioritizations when you're creating a recipe for the model. At the end of the day, this model just become like average on every front, right? It doesn't do good on reasoning, doesn't do good on some of the languages, stuff like that. And I think if you project these kind of lessons to scientific discovery, it's gonna look similar. Like if 100 people propose 100 proposal, and then you do a voting, and one proposal get maybe 30% of the vote and win the other proposals, and does it mean it's the best proposal? I don't know. I think it's just like a sort of a better one than the worst one. But if you really calibrate it over the entire sort of a hypothesis space, maybe this is just overall a pretty average idea. So I think it's, if you go really philosophical about this problem, is like, do we want to take a entirely like democratic view in terms of like creating this like top-notch findings in terms of engineering and in terms of science? I think there's like decades-long debates about that, right? And I think most of the success we have seen in the past many years on engineering and science side, it's still like come from pretty centralized way of doing things. Yeah, giving resource to the right people, give them the freedom, just let things happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this a D-size session? I didn't realize. So Sean is expressing something.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely in agreement with him on this. Both of us come from the other side of the town. I think I was completely enamored by the decentralization part of blockchain. For a long time I have been. Yeah. Generally openness and freedom, right? And the competitiveness that comes with it. Solana, for example, that's one of the things I'm usually anti-Solana, but that's one of the things, it's marvelous in Solana. It's marvelous. I've seen those teams from early on when they were sort of treated as nobodies, and then they came out and from this competitive environment into leading projects. Phantom Wallet itself was shit, right? But the whole competition, making it into this kind of project, absolutely. Decentralization, open, freedom, competitiveness, absolutely. But science, because I know that closely, I think it's a pipe dream. Something can be decentralized, like the contribution of data can be decentralized, I think. People giving in data points can be decentralized. But crypto has a very limited understanding of incentives of scientists.
Okay.
I think there's a big mismatch in that. There is zero interest in any kind of monetary capital wealth building in any reasonable scientist. So this thing that I will pay and get people to be brilliant is a very stupid idea. It is actually driven by truth finding, which is now not a virtue anymore because we are in the open internet economy. Truth seeking is a virtue which is still held inside that community, and that's why they need to control it, lose it. Now that control should go away, because then you have cliques, and like US universities has this brilliant culture. They started it, that it's very hard to be a faculty in the university where you did your PhD from. That's to break the cliques, because otherwise you form these cliques. And this balance that we see now is great, actually. Google pushing universities is great. That's a balance. That's like cleaning happening on all that. But to say that you will have a bounty on scientific breakthroughs is a very naive thought process. There is nothing that can come out of bounty on a scientific breakthrough. There's a natural bounty. There's a bounty of glory and contribution, and there's no bounty needed, man. Newton was not looking for a bounty to invent all those things, right? There was no bounty needed. It's a natural bounty. You're born with that mission, and you grow up with that bounty, and you never know anything else. There is nothing else. So I don't know. But what can be decentralized is, I think, the data part. This removing the barrier can be decentralized. Funding resources, maybe because I have not faced it, but maybe there are these funding resources. But funding is a very complex thing. The kind of return that crypto looks for, the kind of cycles in which crypto works, doesn't suit academic breakthrough or research breakthrough methods. Maybe pharmaceutical way of research. That probably, that kind of thing maybe can be sort of decentralized and picked up. Pharmaceuticals have been doing this drug discovery for a long time with funded research and held and protected by regulation, because typically pharmaceutical companies, they spend a lot of money in research and having the breakthrough drug. Like, I don't know if Ozempic is I don't know, it's a little bit controversial now, but at least it's a breakthrough drug. But then people are waiting in countries like India, where I come from, for that patent to go away and then repeat it, because it's not difficult to repeat it. It's the cost is in discovery and navigating that experimental cost. Same for DeepSeek. It's cheap, but the discovery cost is still there. How do you discover that cheap method is extremely expensive? So those things, I feel there is something to be broken there and something to be decentralized there. I think that because direct monetary reward, 2-3 year cycles are common in drug discovery, which I think crypto can sustain. But fundamental breakthroughs, like can crypto sponsor the discovery of transformers? I doubt it, man.
Yeah. Jialin, please.
Yeah, so so I've been doing research for over a decade, so I understand the old school way of how research and scientific discoveries are being done. I mean, for me, I've been privileged enough to work at decent universities and labs, so that we do have all the resources we need, the funding opportunities, and we can publish papers at top conferences. But you can see that the set of people there appear at those top conferences are like a very limited set of people, right? So you know them. I mean, there's always the same set of old people there. Yeah. So, but will you be able to use decentralization and blockchain to actually make the game a bit more fair? I think that's a good vision. Whether or not that's can be a reality, I'm not sure. I mean, I hope we can have like more more people can participate in this process and then be able to have. But I mean, that's not easy, right? Because science is a hard thing, and it requires more than just resources and funding opportunities. It also require. I mean, there's your education background and everything, right? So I think it's a more complex question to ask. Although I think maybe I think at least from the kind of resource perspective, right? So for example, one simple example, right? So my research group is one of my students was asking me, okay, DeepSeek is out. I want to try DeepSeek. I was like, okay, but we don't have GPU servers that are powerful enough to run a full DeepSeek model, right? So and I was looking at AWS solutions. It was like it was really expensive, right? So I mean, I could afford it, but it's kind of I was a bit short on budget, right? So I just said, okay, maybe I should look at some other solutions. Maybe I look at decentralized solution, and then I go, okay, so there are a few of these Web3 companies which offer like much cheaper GPU options, and then we ended up like renting a GPU from Hyperbolic. Okay, so that's maybe a very narrow kind of a perspective, but I think it's possible that blockchain or Web3 would be able to help some of these research teams to do things that they weren't able to do before.
Okay, one thing I'll add to this. This is actually a great point, because I should just pitch that Sentient at least once. But anyway, we also
sorry for not using Sentient.
We also rely on no, we don't supply GPU, but we use it, and that's a very good point. The other example which comes to my mind in same category is bloody ZK. So anyone who did computer science, maybe, and when you did it, you never thought that these kind of things will be implemented and someone will pay for it. But mad thing that crypto is, someone came and poured $1 billion on it, and it became a reality. I mean, this is the great part. This is the exciting and the crazy part about crypto. You never know. You never know. Crypto may end up sponsoring FHE, and suddenly you'll have this expensive, extremely expensive technology built. Otherwise, for a Microsoft to decide whether to sponsor ZK, Microsoft has been talking about these things for a long time. Then they slowly wait, and then the next guy comes, and then they say, no, nothing coming out. Same with TEE, like dragged along for such a long time in Azure and everything, Intel. But crypto has this magical thing of somehow like zooming in somewhere at some corner, let's give $1 billion here. and then it's like, okay, done. Something comes out of it, boom. That I think is very powerful, very exciting for me, that part. So it is possible that suddenly we find some corner of DeSci, and it's like everyone is excited about it, and $1 or $2 billion, which is not a big amount, but for some niche area it can be very big. Gets poured on it, and something spectacular comes out. That I completely believe in can happen.
Yeah. Okay. So for the last question, maybe we go beyond designs. So the last question is that what do you guys think? The biggest the potential scenario for decentralized AI. Maybe today we have a lot of AI agent meme coins on Solana. It's kind of an experiment, but yeah, we do have some things that really make people excited, and everybody know more about AI agents. So, but we do have a problem with the current AI agent that normally they don't have utility. It's just a meme coin, and so yeah, what do you guys think? Could potentially make the product market for decentralized AI.
I mean, first just to express my view about this whole two extreme of the spectrum, right? So in crypto, every other years people will forget about the shit happens in previous years, and then there's gonna be new memes happens, right? So AI basically got screwed up by the meme coins. The whole concept, which is great, but it's still going really up and hype in the Web 2. Everyone talks about AI fundraising there was great, but then it's a kind of like a shit show here in the crypto space for the AI, and people start moving away from AI to start looking at the robotic stuff. I mean, it's gonna happen. If you figure out there's nothing really get out of those things if you don't really build into the value of these problems, right? Rather than stay on the conceptual stuff. But I mean, these things will keep coming back in the crypto space and leverage the liquidity. It has a short-term effect, but then it wouldn't last long. So I think the real question here is like for the protocols really want to build into the value and the utility of AI. What is the problem here that was combining between blockchain and AI? And I think governance apparently is one. And governance can happen on both data aspects and also model aspect, right? So how do we allow people to really claim the ownerships of the data sets were going to be used in building the models, and then you become part of the model owner and so on and so forth, right? So it's entire like an energy of the dependencies between all these stakeholders that create this AI. But if you want to use blockchain to capture this problem, it's kind of straightforward, but then the hardest part is the privacy part. Like, how do you do the off-chain AI computations with privacy protections while you have everything recorded on-chain? The harder part is actually taking maybe 70% of the company's energy to solve, and the more obvious part, the on-chain part, is only taking you the 20% of the energy to solve it. So I think that's like the battle we have to do. Like you're solving a important problem, but there's an even harder problem behind that you have to put resource on it, and it's like a 5-year problem. Do you want to really solve the problem, or just do a narrative play? I think the different choices from different projects. Yeah.
Yeah, so the other angle I've been thinking about is, can we also, most people are talking about leveraging decentralization or blockchain for AI. So the other angle is using AI for blockchain, which I think is also a promising direction. Actually, the Hetu team actually collaborate with the Nethermind team to have this experimentation on using AI agents as validators for building a blockchain. So it's called Chaos Chain, which is, I think, it's a fun experiment, right? So what if we replace all the validators with the AI agents, and then they will decide, okay, which transactions to take, what is a block format, and all the other perspective of running a blockchain, right? So that is one experimentation, but you can imagine there are many other things we can leverage. So essentially, AI has already revolutionized traditional Web 2 technologies, and why can't we do that for Web 3 technologies, right? So all your DevOps can maybe in the future be AI agents. Maybe they're better than humans, maybe not, right? Who knows? But there's something that at least we can experiment with.
Firstly, this AI meme coins is beautiful. It's like so, it's so crypto. In fact, I'm sure Sean will agree that it was a no-brainer that an AI agent should be on Twitter, right? Because Twitter has, and Discord, they have distribution. Creating distribution is the hardest part. And so it was already there, which should be there. Everybody was thinking about it. But what do you do with it, right? And yeah, people can like it and all that, fine. But what do you do? It's just a fun and play thing. And what you do with it is think of it as just a meme coin. And that's a brilliant, so crypto, so cool. So I was taken aback and excited and shocked about it. Like, what's going on? How did we miss it? And I had no clue this will happen because I was early on that. So a little bit pissed off by the fact that we had no clue this can be. This is so good. And but this service that has happened because of it, and this is the incentive part about crypto, is that once you start getting that yield, then nothing else matters. So if you talk to builders who build agents on, let's say, virtuals, and ask them what's exciting, they'll tell you how much yield they're getting per month or whatever. And so then they're busy, man. Like there's no need to do anything else, or maybe that's what they want to work with. No AI to build, right? You have to keep that token price wherever you need it and all that. So that's what they end up doing. This is the big dichotomy. Then nothing to do with whether AI agents can be built or not. It's something else. It's some other product. So now coming to it's a brilliant product, I would say again. Coming to the AI agents itself, only the beginning. Like you're pointing out that how ad-sponsored research, right? The whole meaning of ad has changed. Ad is everything. Like when we think of advertisement, like we are still using this word. This is a 70s word, I think. Marketing, advertisement, Mad Men, that kind of. It's like, okay, the main thing is something else, and here is a sneak peek into something, which takes a minute of your time and then hooks you into something long-term. That's very old. Yeah. Now we are all connected and hooked all the time, and everything else is just minuscule time. With, let's say, AGI breakthrough, even the rest of it, we had nothing to go to, right, to work. There's nothing to take away from my time. I'm already free. So all my attention is available. That economy opens up. So the whole economy, advertisement is everything. It's my attention. Yeah. And that economy will be governed by AI. which controls the content, which refines the content, which understands me better through personalization. This was done by 1 or 2 companies. Now it can be done by 20,000 companies with 20,000 different models. I think that's Sentient's thesis. We need all these different models because we have a chance to take it away. Otherwise, you are all governed by Google's recommendation engine or whatever. But the attention economy is opening up, only the beginning. And yeah, you are all on your phone in your restrooms. Now everywhere else, maybe in your bed, I don't know. Everywhere, okay? Everything, ad is everything. And that's the economy of fighting for. It's a big approach. Something will happen. Give it 2 years, give it 3 years. It's just the beginning. Go to a website, put some prompt there, get an answer. It's such an old interface. I think that interface will go away. It will be everywhere, omnipresent. Easily you'll be able to ask through devices. Even the interface, I think. I'm pissed off with the interface itself. Why am I still going to a website and entering my queries? It should be available wherever I need it. That should happen. So there'll be I think, variety of agents. No one would have guessed a YouTube, or no one would have guessed that Twitter. No one would have guessed Reels, and they all came in a span of decade or so. And give it 5 years, there'll be brilliant thing. We all need to be a part of that.
Yeah. Okay. So we are open 2 questions for the audience. Anyone got a question? Yeah, please.
I was just thinking about how, yes, many of the AI agent tokens don't really accrue much value to science beyond trying to maintain their own token prices. And so my question is, I've seen Yes No Error, which is Matt Schlitt's project, and not my project, I'm not building on it. And they audit scientific research papers in exchange for using the token, and it's a pretty neat system. Do you think there's any kind of future in something like an AI agent that, like on Yes No Error, accrues that value and then redistributes some public good portion of it for, saying, paying for open access for people who are publishing instead of them having to pay the $1,400? Because that's one where, like, I'm in a university environment and that stuff's expensive.
I mean, the whole publishing industry is like really like a toxic thing. I mean, I've been complaining this for years. Like, how come I write a paper and then I publish it and I need to pay $400 to get access to my paper, and my students need to pay that as well. Like, so this whole thing is like a fraud. I don't know what's the fundamental of it, but then, yeah, I mean, I think archive, all these things are great. People start realizing that you don't have to be attached to the publisher as long as there's a peer review. So now that I think all the pressures go into like who pays people's labor of peer review, and there's only this amount of people can do peer review, right? I think the whole academic right now is suffering from like how to find reviewers, and if I write a paper, I should be a reviewer, but I might be a bad reviewer. So it's not solved. It's an open problem. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. You want to add something?
This is a great idea. This was always on my mind. It has to be done because you know what has happened. What has happened is that all the AI guys are dumping their whatever shit research they do on this 10 good reviews. There are like 100 good reviewers in AI in the world. That's it, and they have to go through this 50,000 submissions. At one point, and you know this, right?
100,000.
Yeah, at one point I started getting 100 requests. I said, dude, like, you know, that there's a limit to that, right? And all junk, right? And nothing, thankless job. In fact, it's become even more thankless. It used to be, it's not thankless actually. There's a huge reputation that comes with it. You sort of, well, the network that you're talking about, the friends you meet at conferences. But it's a broken system. Mainly it's like botted now. Sybil resistance is not there, and that economy I completely agree. It can be actually done with incentives. It can. The reviewer reputation is a word of mouth thing, and that's a very important. It's just word of mouth. People know. As I have been in AE for a good transaction, and you know who are the guys who write good reviews, and you just ask this guy once, twice, and then after some time, this guy says, "Dude, never email me again. I'm not going to respond to you," and. But that's a broken system for sure. I agree that can be fixed. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
you
mean,
wanna
I
answer?
don't want to hold on to other questions.
Yeah,
so-
okay, we still have one more. Okay, 2 people, you come first.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much. Yes, very interesting panel. So our question is fundamental. So first is about like human nature, right? I mean, I think with the devices, we are seeing a lot of problems of ADHDs, mental wellness, and attention span, instant gratification. Those are becoming a next-gen problem, which like in our age probably not there. Now, from a scientific discovery point of view, I see that this is a human intelligence thing, right? I mean, obviously, you discover and it actually helps you to do like promote human intelligence. And now, since we're building a lot of agents, which is doing all this work, do you think that the kind of discovery which is done and which essentially promotes human intelligence gonna go down? Are we going to I don't know, maybe getting doomed or something? Or what do you think about it? Like,
okay. I mean, I can start. I think it's I think in the beginning, I think there's certainly a efficiency gain when using this AI, either agents or tools. I think it is a great thing because we can, essentially reduce some of the mundane tasks that humans usually do. So, for example, like looking through a lot of data and trying to understand the patterns in the data. So these are things that AI are great with. But you are essentially just using these tools to increase your efficiency. Right? I think I mean, we have been, why we're humans, right? Because we're intelligent, we know how to use tools, right? So these tools are great for researchers, right? Now you are 10 times more efficient. But then at some point then becomes a bit, less certain because then they can also reason about things and then they can start to, propose hypotheses. Then our job as researchers becomes, a bit less, important there. Right, and then at some point, maybe they can have the entire pipeline of doing everything, right? Proposing hypotheses. Maybe robots become so good they can also do all the experiments, and then they find some problem with the experiment. They repropose a hypothesis, and then they redo the experiments. Then it becomes less clear what we can do, right? Unfortunately, I think we are moving towards that direction. So far, we are still keeping our jobs. Who knows what's going to happen in a few years? Maybe another anecdote is when I teach classes, I give students assignments, I mean every time I will make sure that like ChatGPT is not going to just to give the correct answer. I tried it every year. In the beginning is so bad. Now it's getting better. Still can't really solve the problems yet, but I have a feeling that maybe just in a few years that's going to change as well. So I hopefully we can still keep our jobs.
Yeah, you guys want to add something? Okay. Please.
Hey, you mentioned that privacy is still a problem. Do you think that TEs combined with decentralized training would be able to solve some of this so you can operate on a private data, or is there still something to be done on that level?
Yeah, as long as Intel, NVIDIA, and Apple are not stealing our data, I mean, I would rather, I think this is a tangible solution, yeah.
Okay, so maybe for that, Jeff.
Hi, thanks for a nice panel discussion. One of the key things, in addition to the privacy aspect, one of the challenges that we have identified in decentralized AI, not just for the discovery part, but in general, is the some way to reward and for the contributors, more of a fair and transparent way. Do you think we can leverage blockchains, token mechanics along those lines to reward the contributors in a more transparent, fair, and perhaps in a similar their equal contribution way, right? So, would love to listen to your thoughts on this. And I think Sentient is trying to do something similar. I was reading the paper. Would like to know if that's something that you are trying to accomplish, or maybe it's totally different. Maybe you can start with that.
So half of our marketing is working. So I would say we are one of the bigger consumers of decentralized training. And I'm not even, to be blunt about it, decentralized is or not is a detail I'm not right now concerned with. I'm concerned with what he's saying. I want the cheapest compute, which is temperature maintained, which doesn't let the power consumption go to 90% of the chip rating and give me unreliable stuff. That's all I'm looking for. Cheapest part, yes. So you know how this works is that the decentralization part is behind the scenes. When I'm building a model, I just want compute which is reliable with some infinity band connection at one place, right, large cluster. That's what they give me, and that's done in a deal-making manner. Why not, right? I want the cheapest compute. And they get a lot by associating with a project like ours. Behind the scenes, how they incentivize, if they actually have a decentralized contributor pool, is what comes through crypto, I guess. The aggregation can be done through crypto. Although what I understand is there's very little aggregation, even more deal making even behind the scenes right now, because what you have to do is buy H100s and place them in some data centers which maintain it for you, and then also look for excess compute and get some deals with it. At the same time, there are larger deepened projects which have been aggregating with token incentives. So nobody knows how transparent this is, but yeah, it works. It's already there. There are a lot of great projects giving compute which works. We explicitly train right now, not inference, but training only on decentralized compute.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's all for today for this panel. I want to thank you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Real quick. Yeah.
Let's take a photo.